Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Decryption, and I hope you are well. Do you ever wonder in games where your character is walking in a cutscene, but it's your exact character? It's not a pre-rendered version. Like if you've got character customization or specific weapons, they're all in the cutscene. So it's very common in a lot of games, but the one I'm going to use is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So we've got this video by the Jizzy, where at the end of the line you can see Big Smoke sat there like normal, and Carl walks up in his custom uniform. He's got a custom skin on, he's got a custom facial, beard, and everything. And it's custom to that specific character. It's not the pre rendered typical white tank top CJ. Or equally, it works with mods. So you've got a modded version here, where this is by Rick Grimes apparently, where you've got Tony Cipriani and Vincenzo all modded in and working exactly. And it could be that they have recreated the cutscene like for like, but that would be too much work. Another alternative is here is the completely random end of the line part mission where there's just completely different characters in. And you could make a cutscene specifically for this for every single one, but it'd take forever. So the better way of doing it is to use dynamic cutscenes or real-time cutscenes, where it takes real characters from the game in the current time and uses it in a cutscene. So we're going to take a quick look at how to do this today in Unreal. So let's get started. So I'm just going to set up a super basic cutscene because this isn't going to be an introduction to sequences and how to make cutscenes. If you want that, let me know below. We'll put a video out for it. So I'm just going to create a super basic dev map using the toolbar addition we added called real-time cutscenes. And I'll just let it go through as normal. There, so I've got a basic cutscene place I can use now. And what I'm thinking, just for a super basic one, is we'll have the character in the world, like so. And then when we enter a certain place, the character will walk forwards, they'll do something, an action or something, the camera will pan away, and it'll fade back in, and it'll all be very seamless with the game. Now, there's two parts to the way this works to handle it. You have the part where you actually create the sequence, because there are some differences there, and then there's the part where you execute the sequence, because again, there are some differences there as well. So let's take a look at the first part, is creating the cutscene. So, as I said, this isn't going to be an introduction on how to create cutscenes. We're just going to do a super basic one for now. So I'll just call it ls underscore real-time cutscene, and we'll open it up. Let's add some box in here so I actually know where I'm actually looking at, because otherwise I'm not going to have a clue where any of this is going. There, a super basic one, but we know which direction we're looking at. So I'm going to have it, so as the character walks up to here, it's going to look at this shrine, the camera's going to pan off, it's going to do something, and then it'll snap back to the character, right? Super basic, we'll come and click add camera on it. So what I'm going to do is right at 0, I'm going to add a transform keyframe to it, like so. And then, because I want it to be real-time, blending from the character, I'm going to say a second in, that's when my cutscenes camera will officially start, if you wish. And then from here, I'll say maybe 2.5. It'll fade around here, properly just looking at it. I'll add the transform keyframe again, and then I will go back and copy the original ones back at 4, and then we can use the last one to blend back out. So what I mean by this is if I come and move my camera over here, right? So it's nowhere near it. And if I start the keyframe from back here and click the camera, it snaps to it, which is going to look really odd when you play the cutscene. But if you come to the camera cuts, right click and choose Can Blend, we can now have this little yellow arrow to drag it up. Not the green one, the yellow one. And you'll see it's put a curve in it there. You must right click and do Can Blend or it won't work. And now what it means is from here, look, the camera will smoothly blend into where I've told it to. Looking a lot nicer already. And you can do the same for the out one as well. So we'll do back to 4. So as the camera pans around here, it looks around at it, it comes back again, and then it'll smoothly blend back over to the player. Now, the issue you can see, which is a common issue people have, is the borders are snapping in the eye. It looks awful. Simple fix, just grab your sign camera, drag down and untick constraint aspect ratio, and it'll be the same camera that plays with, that it blends in with, looks around, comes back, blends back out again. See? Seamless if you wish. So that's going to help the blending of the character in the game, but the other thing we want is we want the actual character doing something, right? This is going to be one of the key parts of the character doing it, is we need to animate the character in here. Most people will just add the character's mesh in here and then work from that. But it's actually a lot easier than that if you just drag the player in. So if I click play, pause the game, and find out whatever character I've got, so I'm using this one here. So this one right here, I can drag this into the world. That is my official character, right? But if I keep him there where he needs to be and play the game, there's going to be two of us, which is not what we want. Well, this is where we can look at dynamic spawning in cutscenes, which is an amazing thing sequencers do. So I'm going to drag this character into the cutscene to make it use it, right? But I'm going to right click on it and choose Convert Selected Bindings to Replaceable Actor. You've also got Spawnable Actor. They're both very good for what they're used for. Spawnable Actor is an actor that spawns in the scene, exists for as long as the sequence does, and then destroys itself. So the camera, as you can see, is in the sequencer. So the camera's there. If I close the sequencer down, the camera vanishes. I can come and open it back up. The camera will appear again. That's a spawnable actor. A replaceable actor is one where we can dynamically code it and say, hey, see this character, replace it with this one in the sequence when we run it. So I'm going to right click this character and choose Convert Selected Bindings to Replaceable Actor. And you'll see it's pretty much not changed anything. I've got my character. It looks weird because it's got all the characters on and everything, but it is indeed there. I can now animate this character exactly how I normally would. And if I come and get their character mesh, which is my main mesh that is visible, and then I can add animations to it. So maybe I'll do the fire lighting animation. And if I play it, you can see he'll start to light a fire. Look. Yeah, perfect. I'll probably move him more into position here. So when we get close, he lights a fire on it, potentially. And by the looks of it, I'm going to have to extend my cutscene a little, but that's fine. Let's just drag it out a little bit. Yeah, so if we play it now, you see the camera will blend in. He'll start to light it. Make sure you add any transforms to it that you want to have. So on your character, if you don't add a transform, it might glitch out a little bit. So I'm just going to lock one right there, almost at the start. So if I click the camera view on the top one, and then move my camera, so say my player's here, right? If I click play, it'll blend in, you'll see the character start to light the fire, it'll blend out, and then it'll come back out again. Eventually it will blend back out, look, yeah, perfect-ish. I'm going to improve it a bit by dragging this out like this, look. Comes in, it watches the player light it slowly, there you go, and then it comes out. Spend as much time as you really need to, I'm just showing you the process here. So a super basic one, right? And because it's a replaceable actor, when I close the sequence down, the character will disappear, which is perfect. So that's the first part where you've set it up with the replaceable actor. The next part is how we actually code the cutscene to play. So there's two parts to this. There's how you replace it, and then there's the actual replacement. So how you replace it is on this character here. If you right click on, you can do this as many times as you want, NPCs, cars, everything, and go to tags, add a new name here for the tag. So I'm just going to call this one player. Just tap enter like that. You see it's got a now tag of player. And if you hover over it, it says, this object binding can be looked up, resolved, overridden by the root sequence with using the tag player. So basically, when we execute a sequence to play it, we can actually find that tag and then do whatever we want with it. Replace it, look it up, change it, do whatever we need. So that's part one. So that's our very basic sequence, right? And now it all comes down to replacing it in the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and create a super basic blueprint, just because I don't really know what else to do at this point. So I'm going to create a super basic blueprint just to execute this sequence, mainly because there's a million different ways you might want to do it yourself, but a blueprint trigger to execute a cutscene might be a good one. So I'm just going to set mine to be a trigger box by default, and I'll call it BP sequence trigger, and I'll open it up. I'll just set the box extent to be a bit bigger, something like that, just so we've got a wide range to hit it, and I'll come and add a on overlap begin. I'll double check if the other actor is the current player pawn. You could equally add a custom collision profile if you want to, and I'll add a branch to it. Don't need any of these. And now we can execute the cutscene. So if you've never executed a cutscene or a sequence in Unreal before, it's super basic, it's just two nodes. You drag off and do create level sequence player. Select your level sequence, so for me it will be the real-time cutscene. You can also make that into a variable. From the return value, you just do play. That's it. That's the entire sequence done. We can test this now. So if I come and drag in this sequence trigger here, make it so it's visible-ish. Now if we play, you'll see nothing happens. If I walk up to here though, you'll see it will play. The character will do it. I've still got full movement at the moment, which is fine, but it's not spawned the player in, but it has indeed took over the character. and that's because we've not replaced it yet. So back on our sequence trigger, let's first promote this level sequence to a variable, because that means we can reuse it later. I'll make it instance editable as well. That just means we can now set it in here, look. And then just before you call play, this is where we start replacing the actors. So from the out actor here, what we can do is we can call add binding by tag. And this is super simple what it does, so we'll just do it like that. The binding tag is the tag what we're replacing, so player, that's the tag we set up earlier. And the actor is who we're replacing it with, so we'll do get player pawn. And that's pretty much it. So now this time, if we come up and play it, and I run up and I start the sequence, you can see it's took over my character. You can see I've still got control of it, so I do need to disable input and everything when the cutscene's running, but it has indeed took over my character look. And you really do have to work to it to make it seamless, because it isn't going to automatically do it for you. So I'm going to come and shrink this down a little bit, and make it so the character pretty much has to stand really close to it, like so. And of course you can get the character's position and blend it in, that's another option you can do. But I think we can make this more dynamic. It'll be a lot easier for the future of the game if we do. What I'm actually going to do is just drag this down here for now, temporarily. And instead, I'm going to create a new variable called bindings. I'll set the first one to a name, and I'm going to come and change it to a map here. And I'll set the second one to also be a name, and I'll make it instance editable. And now what this means here is we can come and add a binding and say, on this sequence I want to add the player, and the tag of the player is the player, and the one in the world is going to be the player as well. So what I can do is I can drag from the out actor again and do add binding, choose collapse to function, and we'll call this function add sequence binds, and I'll open it up. We'll delete this node because we don't need it, I just wanted that set up there. We'll call this self-reference the sequence, and now we can drag the bindings in. We can drag off and just do keys, and I'm going to plug this in here. I'm going to for each loop off of the array here, and then for each of these tags here, because this is the key that we're looking at, we can get the binding and we can do find to get the value of it. So now we have the key, which is the tag in the binding, and we have the tag in the world that we need to find. So what this means is we can get the sequence, which is the input variable we've created. So we'll get the blue one, and I can do add binding by tag. The tag we want to bind on is our array element here. And then the actor, we can just drag off of this loop body and do get all actors with tag. We can connect the find to it, and we can get the out actors, do a get, and connect it to the actor like so. And what this essentially means is we've now created a way to just completely bind any amount of NPCs or characters in the game as we want, just from one simple function. So back on event graph, we'll just make sure this is here, connect the play just after it, and click compile and save. So what we've done now is in here, we can see in bindings, it will automatically try to attach any tag of player to the player. Seems okay so far. But we can take it one step further now. So potentially, say we've got an NPC. So we'll drag in the Egyptian NPC and put him on top of the tower. I have no idea why. But we'll drag him in and we'll do the same thing. Right click, make him a replaceable actor. I'll right click again, give him a tag of NPC01, call it whatever you want. And he will, I don't know, let's get his character mesh and we'll just make him do a weird animation. Surely we've got one. Apparently we've got a kneeling one, that will work. There we go. So when this character starts, it will play. And you see it's a super small one, so I'm just going to loop it. It can just loop it over and over and over again. Yeah, so there you go. He's just going to loop there for whatever reason, right? And he's called NPC01, so we can cross it off and you'll see he will disappear. If I come and drag in another NPC, so we'll say the priest, potentially, a completely different NPC, I'll just have him stood there for now. I'll check what tag he's got. So he's not got one at the moment, so I'll give him a tag of priest. But now what it means is on our sequence, we've created a new binding, so we can add a binding to it, call this one NPC01, because that's what it is in the sequence, and then the character in the world is called the priest, like so. And if we click play this time, as we run up, the character is there. Look, there's my priest, but as I run up to here and start the cutscene, you'll see it has replaced the character there with the priest down there. It's not using the same character. How cool's that? And you see the camera glitches out a little. We just need to disable the input on the player, because look, I can still turn around. Yeah, there we go. So let's add some safety parts into here then, because this is the gist of it. It's super easy. So first thing I'm going to do is disable the player's input, because that's just causing all sorts of issues. So all I'm going to do is get the player controller, and I'll also get the player pawn, and I'm just going to call disable input, and I'm going to pass the player controller into both, and I'm also going to pass the pawn into the target as well, so it disables the input on the controller and the pawn. That'll stop the player moving around. In the add sequence binds, we should really do some checks inside here just for safety. So firstly, on the find, let's just double check that there's no major issues. It is definitely finding the correct key and binding. Nothing's removing it dynamically. And if it's true, we're all good. If it's false, we'll do print text, drag backwards and do format, and we will say curly brace key, close curly brace, cannot be found in bindings, something like that. And we can just pass the key into it. So that just says something's removed the key from the bindings. It shouldn't have done, but it has. From the out actors here, the get all actors with tag. And the get all actors of tag is not too bad. It is actually indexed. It is very, very quick. If you do have an NPC manager, use that. It will be even quicker. But from here, I will just make sure is valid index, and we'll make sure that this character does exist in the world, so we're not returning an empty array. If it is true, we'll add the binding. If it's false, we'll do the same thing we did over here, where we print text with a format text, and we'll say value, because it's the tag, cannot be found in world. And the value is going to be our value here, so the tag of the NPC. So that already should improve it massively. One last thing I'm going to do though is you saw the sequence kept re-triggering itself. All I'm going to do is add a boolean saying B trigger once, and I'll make sure it's a boolean and a single. Then we need to wait until this finishes before we can destroy it, otherwise it'll stop the sequence. So from the return value, let's just drag off and do a sign on finished. So when this sequence finishes, then we can add our trigger once in, right click and choose convert to branch. Remember, if you're on Unreal 5.6, this will work, so you can right click and choose branch. If you're not, you just have to add a normal branch in. And then from the true, it's only triggering once, I can just call this true. Of course, if you want a cutscene that can re-trigger multiple times, add a block into it, so when they leave it or exit it, it re-allows it, so you can replay it again. So if you make sure that you tick trigger once and everything looks all good, come and click play. And just for niceness, I've replaced this character here just so we can really see it work. So you can see when I play, we've got a big fat knight guy. If I run up to here, the cutscene should start, disable my controls, and replace all the characters nice and seamlessly. So you can see he's gone up there. The kneeling animation does not do him justice. Apparently we're lighting him on fire now. It pans around and we regain control of our character. Oh, we've not actually given control back. Okay. So let's work on doing that then. So let's go and grab the player controller and player pawn. Just before we call destroy, we'll add this in here and we'll just call enable input on both of these, and make sure you connect the player controller to the controller and the player pawn to the target as well, just to re-give the player access back to it. I'm also going to, just for sanity's sake, I'm going to add a do once node here. You don't often use them, but sometimes they are very useful. And that'll just make sure it doesn't re-trigger if we go in and out of the frame. So that's pretty much the code, essentially. So if I come and play it this time, you can see I'm here, I'm walking around. I haven't got any custom helmets, unfortunately. Let's just add one in, though, see if we can. We should be able to. Okay, I haven't got any custom armors. I've broke my system, but it's fine. So when I run up here, you'll see the sequence will dynamically take over the camera, replace the player, and that guy over there up here. So we run up. You see, it takes over. I've lost access to the controls. I can't do anything. The camera is taken over. It's using my exact player. It comes back in. It takes over. The cutscene has finished. There you go. So obviously, the more you work with this, the more seamless you can get it. A good way of doing it is you can also add a fade track to it. So you saw at the beginning of the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas one. So if we just add a basic fade track in, and we'll see as the camera is starting to fade in, we're going to make it be 1, so it's completely black. And as the camera fades in for 1 second, we will add a keyframe and make it 0. So you'll see the camera will fade in. The player will already be in the correct position, so will the NPC. And you'll see the NPC is actually 2 different people at this point, but that's okay. And then when it fades back out, you can, of course, replace it if you want, but I kind of like the idea if it keeps the player where they are. So if you right-click on the track and choose Properties, you've got this When Finished option. If you set this to keep state, And I'll do the same for the NPCs transform. So remember to right click on the track, not the name, keep state, and save it. This time the player will stay where they were and the NPC will stay where they were in the cutscene. They're not going to shoot back, which can be really useful if you have a cutscene where a character runs up, pulls a lever, they stand there, and then when the cutscene finishes, they're still there. So you can see, character over there, I'm here. As I run up, the cutscene goes to black, the character's already in position, the NPC is falling down, we're deciding to light him on fire for some reason, camera pans back round, gives us access, and the NPC has gone and stayed there, essentially. You can do the same with the animation if you want, but that's it. That is real-time sequences in Unreal, and it is all down to the binding. So again, it's adding the actual character into the scene that you want to animate because it gives you so many more options. Right click, add a tag, and set them to replaceable actor, and then in the code, just make sure you add your sequence binds where you call add binding by tag. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any other improvements or if you want a basic beginner's tutorial for sequencers, please let me know below. Thank you for watching. My name is Decryption and I will see you next time.